Every human being, no matter where they come from or what they believe in, carries within them a quiet, persistent longing for a soulmate. It is a universal desire that transcends cultures, languages, and traditions. You can travel to the busiest cities in the world or the most remote villages, and you will still discover the same truth. People are searching for someone who truly sees them, someone who understands not just their words, but the pauses between them, someone who feels like home even in the chaos of life. This longing is not a luxury. It is embedded deep within our psychology and even our biology. Human beings are wired for connection. We are social creatures, but beyond social interaction, we crave emotional resonance. We want to be known, not just in the shallow sense of recognition, but in the profound sense of being understood at the level of our soul. The irony is that most of us cannot fully articulate what we are searching for. Ask anyone what they want in a soulmate, and they may speak of kindness, loyalty, beauty, intelligence. But beneath all of that, the essence of this search is the desire to be accepted as we are, without masks and without pretense. It is the hunger for authenticity, for a bond where we don't have to edit ourselves. That is what makes the concept of a soulmate so powerful. It is less about someone else and more about the parts of ourselves that we wish someone could finally recognize. Psychologically speaking, this longing is not just about love, it is about identity. A soulmate, in the truest sense, is someone who mirrors back to us a version of ourselves that we sometimes cannot see on our own. They make us aware of our potential, our hidden strengths, and even our weaknesses in ways that push us toward growth. That is why this longing feels so deep. It is not simply the desire for company, it is the desire for meaning. Without such a connection, many people feel incomplete, as if something essential is missing in their journey. Philosophers across time have spoken about this idea. Plato, in his work The Symposium described humans as beings who were once whole, but were split apart, spending their lives searching for their other half. Whether you accept this literally or symbolically, the concept reflects a truth we can all feel. The journey of life is not just about survival, wealth, or achievement. It is about finding that resonance, that person who makes the journey less lonely and infinitely more significant. But here is the paradox. While every person carries this longing, not everyone recognizes it clearly, and even fewer are willing to pursue it with patience and sincerity. Many people settle for connections that are convenient rather than meaningful, because the world often convinces us that good enough is the same as destiny. Yet deep down, we know the difference. We know when someone fits into our life logically, but not spiritually. And that inner knowing, if ignored, becomes a quiet dissatisfaction that lingers, no matter how outwardly successful we may appear. So this universal longing for a soulmate is not something to dismiss as childish or romantic. It is one of the most profound aspects of the human experience. To desire a soulmate is to admit that we are not designed to walk this life alone, that the beauty of life is magnified through connection. When we acknowledge this longing, we are not being weak, we are being deeply human, and maybe this is the greatest lesson. The longing itself is a teacher. It reminds us of our vulnerability, it humbles our pride, and it urges us to search not just outward but inward. Because the soulmate every person wishes for is not only someone to accompany us, it is someone who awakens us, someone who helps us become more fully alive. And so I leave you with this thought. The longing for a soulmate is not about finding someone to complete you, but about finding someone who inspires you to become complete within yourself. Recognize the longing, honor it, and let it guide you, not into desperation, but into growth, patience, and deeper awareness. The right connection is never rushed, but when it comes, it transforms your life in ways you could never have imagined. The question you must ask yourself is not whether you deserve a soulmate, but whether you are willing to become the kind of person who can truly receive one. When most people hear the word soulmate, their mind immediately jumps to romance. They imagine candlelit dinners, love stories written in the stars, or that one perfect partner who completes them. And yes, romantic love can be one of the most beautiful expressions of a soulmate connection, but to limit the idea only to romance is to misunderstand its depth. A soulmate is not confined to the boundaries of romantic love. A soulmate can be a lifelong friend, a mentor, a sibling, or even someone we meet only briefly, but whose presence shifts the course of our lives forever. Think about it. In your own life, who are the people who have left the greatest impact on you? Perhaps it was not a romantic partner, but a teacher who believed in you when nobody else did, a friend who stood by you in your darkest days, or a colleague who challenged you to rise higher than you thought possible. These are not coincidences. These are encounters with souls that resonate with ours, sometimes more powerfully than any romantic connection ever could. The essence of a soulmate is not about passion or intimacy in the physical sense, but about alignment in the spiritual and emotional sense. It is the meeting of two energies that unlock something greater within both. Psychologically, this is important to understand, because when we narrow the idea of soulmates only to romance, we blind ourselves to the richness of connection that life has to offer. Many people spend their lives chasing a romantic soulmate, and in the process, overlook the other forms of soul-level connections that are equally transformative. A true friend who knows your secrets and loves you anyway, a mentor who sees potential you cannot yet see in yourself, or even a child whose innocence teaches you about unconditional love. These are soulmates too. They may not fit the movie script, but they fit the deeper script of life, the script of growth, awakening, and meaning. Philosophically, the broader perspective of soulmates also challenges the idea that love is exclusive to certain relationships. Love, in its highest form, is expansive. It is not confined to romance but flows through every meaningful bond that elevates us. To recognize this is to free ourselves from the cultural trap of believing we are incomplete until we find the one. In truth, we may find multiple soulmates throughout our lives, each one fulfilling a different role, each one awakening a different part of us. Sometimes, the most powerful soulmate is not the one who stays forever, but the one who enters briefly, delivers a lesson, and then departs. That encounter may last a season, but its effect lasts a lifetime. The mentor who pushes you out of your comfort zone may not walk with you for decades, but their influence may shape the path of your destiny. The friend who shows up during a crisis may not always be in your daily life, but they were the soul you needed at that exact moment. These two are soulmates. When we begin to see the idea of a soulmate beyond romance, we cultivate gratitude. We stop waiting passively for the perfect one and start recognizing the perfection in the connections we already have. We realize that soulmates are not rare treasures locked away in destiny's vault. They are all around us, hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to acknowledge their significance. This shift in perspective also humbles us. It reminds us that life is not about ownership or possession of another person, but about resonance. A soulmate is not someone you hold tightly as proof of your worth. It is someone who expands your worth simply by being in your life. Whether through love, friendship, mentorship, or kinship, the essence remains the same. They awaken parts of us that we could not reach on our own. And so, the next time you think of a soulmate, don't limit yourself to the narrow frame of romance. Look at the people who have shaped you, guided you, and lifted you when you were low. Recognize them for what they are, souls that aligned with yours for a greater purpose. Because in the end, a soulmate is not defined by romance. It is defined by impact. A true soulmate is not the one who merely shares your life, but the one who changes it. One of the most profound truths about soulmates is that they act as mirrors. They reflect us back to ourselves in ways that no one else can. When we encounter such a person, it often feels as though they see beneath the surface, beyond the roles we play, the masks we wear, and the stories we tell the world. They recognize not just who we present ourselves to be, but who we truly are in all our complexity. And that kind of reflection can be both comforting and uncomfortable. Think about what a mirror does. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, it simply shows us what is. A soulmate does something very similar, but on a deeper level. They reflect our strengths, sometimes making us realize that we are more capable, more resilient, and more brilliant than we ever allowed ourselves to believe. But they also reveal our weaknesses, those hidden corners of our character that we might prefer to ignore. This is not always easy to face, but it is necessary, because without seeing our full selves, both the light and the shadow, we cannot grow into the person we are meant to become. Psychologically, this reflection is powerful because it awakens self-awareness. Many of us go through life convinced we know who we are, but much of that identity is shaped by habit, environment, or expectation. We may think we are confident, but a soulmate shows us where our confidence is fragile. We may believe we are compassionate, but they reveal the limits of that compassion. They press against the edges of our self-image, testing its strength, and in doing so, they force us to evolve. That's why soulmate connections often feel intense. They aren't designed to keep us comfortable. They are designed to keep us honest. Philosophically, this idea of the soulmate as a mirror ties back to the age-old wisdom that knowing oneself is the foundation of wisdom. The ancient Greeks inscribed "Know thyself" on the temple of Apollo at Delphi, reminding humanity that self-awareness is the starting point of all true progress. But how do we come to know ourselves? Rarely is it through isolation. It is through relationships, through the eyes of others, and most of all, through those rare souls who hold up the clearest mirror. And yet, this reflection is not about judgment. A soulmate does not show us who we are to condemn us. They reflect us with understanding, compassion, and often with love. Their role is not to diminish us, but to help us confront the truth so that we may rise above our illusions. The greatest growth in life comes not from praise but from clarity, and a soulmate provides that clarity in ways that no one else can. If you look at your own life, you may recall moments when someone close to you revealed something about yourself that you hadn't noticed before. Perhaps they saw a talent in you long before you believed in it yourself. Perhaps they called out a flaw you kept hidden, not to hurt you, but to help you overcome it. That's what a soulmate does. They bring our hidden truths into the light, and whether those truths are beautiful or uncomfortable, they become the foundation for transformation. The mistake many people make is resisting this reflection. They feel exposed, vulnerable, even threatened when someone sees too deeply. But instead of running from it, we should embrace it, because the mirror is not our enemy, it is our guide. To accept the reflection of a soulmate is to accept the invitation to grow, to become more authentic, more whole, more aligned with who we are meant to be. And so, if you are fortunate enough to find someone who mirrors your soul, don't be afraid of what you see. Embrace it, learn from it, let it challenge you, because in the end, a soulmate is not meant to make life easier, but to make it richer. The truest soulmate is not the one who flatters your illusions, but the one who reflects your truth, and in that truth, gives you the chance to become your highest self. When people talk about soulmates, they often imagine someone who completes them, as if life is a puzzle and this one person is the missing piece. It sounds poetic, but it is not entirely true. A soulmate does not complete us. They challenge us, stretch us, and ignite growth within us. Completion suggests dependence, but real soul connections are not about dependence. They are about expansion. They are about becoming more than we were before the connection existed. Think about the people who have pushed you to grow the most. They were not always the ones who made life easy. More often, they were the ones who asked difficult questions, who refused to let you settle, who held you to a higher standard when you wanted to lower it. That is what a true soulmate does. They don't just comfort you in your weaknesses, they help you transform them into strengths. They don't just celebrate your victories, they remind you that you are capable of even more. Their presence is both a gift and a responsibility, because to have such a person in your life is to be constantly reminded of who you could become. Psychologically, this is one of the most profound impacts of a soulmate. They tap into what is called the growth mindset. When you are with someone who truly sees your potential, it becomes difficult to remain stagnant. They don't allow you to shrink into comfort zones. Instead, they encourage you to take risks, to fail, to try again, and to keep evolving. And because the encouragement comes not from judgment, but from belief, it has a power that mere advice or criticism never could. You don't feel pressured to grow, you feel inspired to grow. Philosophically, this kind of connection speaks to the deeper purpose of relationships. If life is a journey, then a soulmate is not simply a travel companion. They are a catalyst. They speed up your evolution. They accelerate the process of becoming. Without them, you might still move forward, but slowly, cautiously, perhaps even timidly. With them, you leap forward, because they awaken within you a courage that you didn't know you had. They remind you that greatness is not something you chase alone, but something that is unlocked in connection. But let's be honest, this growth is not always comfortable. Sometimes it feels like friction. When a soulmate challenges you, it can be unsettling. They might hold up a mirror that shows you the gap between who you are and who you could be. At times, that gap feels overwhelming. But that discomfort is exactly where growth begins. Growth has never come from comfort. It comes from being stretched, from being challenged, from being nudged, or even pushed beyond what you thought possible. The beauty of a soulmate is that they do not push from a place of superiority. They walk with you, they grow alongside you, they are not above you pointing fingers, they are beside you, showing you what is possible. Their growth inspires your growth, and your growth inspires theirs. It becomes a cycle of mutual elevation, where each person becomes stronger, wiser, and more whole because of the other. So, when you think of a soulmate, don't picture someone who simply makes your life easier. Picture someone who makes your life fuller. Someone who doesn't just hold your hand when you stumble, but also pushes you to climb higher. Someone who doesn't just accept who you are, but also believes fiercely in who you can be. That is the gift of a soulmate. They don't finish your story. They help you write new chapters you never imagined possible. The true soulmate is not the one who completes you, but the one who awakens the parts of you that were waiting to grow. One of the most misunderstood aspects of a soulmate is the belief that they are someone who will always agree with you, always support every decision, and never challenge your perspective. But the reality is far richer and more complex. A true soulmate is not defined by constant agreement. They are defined by unconditional understanding. This kind of connection goes beyond validation. It is about being seen, being heard, and being accepted at the deepest level of your humanity, even when your choices, flaws, or perspectives are not perfect. We live in a world where judgment comes easily. People are quick to criticize, to label, to draw conclusions about others based on fragments of information. In such an environment, finding someone who truly understands you without judgment is rare. A soulmate provides that safe space. They create a relationship where you can show up as your raw, unpolished self and still feel valued. Not for what you pretend to be, not for the roles you play, but for who you truly are. This is not about blind acceptance. It is about deep recognition. They see both your strengths and your weaknesses, and they hold space for both. Psychologically, this level of understanding fulfills one of the deepest human needs, the need for belonging. Many people mistake belonging for fitting in, but fitting in often requires us to edit ourselves, to shrink certain parts, to exaggerate others. Belonging, on the other hand, means being accepted without editing. A soulmate embodies this. They don't need you to perform, to prove, or to hide. They know your flaws and still choose to stand beside you. That choice creates a foundation of trust that allows true vulnerability to flourish. And vulnerability is the birthplace of genuine growth. Philosophically, unconditional understanding connects to the very nature of love itself. Love is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of compassion even in conflict. A soulmate will disagree with you, they may even confront you, but their disagreement is never rooted in dismissal. It comes from a place of care, from a desire to engage with your truth rather than ignore it. Their acceptance is not fragile or conditional. It doesn't evaporate the moment you make a mistake. Instead, it remains steady, like an anchor that grounds you when the storms of life test you. This kind of understanding also brings peace. When you know there is at least one person in the world who sees the entirety of you and still accepts you, the noise of external opinions begins to matter less. You stop chasing approval from everyone else because you have already found what most people spend their entire lives searching for: recognition without conditions. This gives you courage. It frees you to pursue your path more boldly, knowing that your worth is not dependent on perfection or performance. But let's not confuse unconditional understanding with passivity. A soulmate doesn't excuse destructive behavior or enable harmful choices. Instead, they call you out in ways that still honor your dignity. They remind you of your higher self when you've forgotten it, but they do it without tearing you down. They speak truth with compassion, and that balance is what makes their presence transformative. When you think about it, unconditional understanding is not about finding perfection in another person. It's about finding alignment. It's about discovering someone whose soul resonates with yours deeply enough that you can rest, grow, and evolve without fear of rejection. That is why soulmates are not only rare but priceless. They give us the gift of freedom, the freedom to be fully ourselves. So when you search for a soulmate, don't look for someone who will agree with everything you say or do. Look for the one who will understand you even when they don't agree, who will stand with you even when you falter, who will hold your truth even when it is heavy. That is the kind of connection that every person secretly longs for. The soulmate you wish for is not the one who mirrors your perfection, but the one who understands your imperfections and still calls you worthy. When people speak about finding a soulmate, they often imagine it as a matter of luck, being at the right place at the right time, crossing paths with the perfect person. And while there is some truth to that, the deeper reality is that timing plays a critical role in whether we can truly recognize and receive such a connection. You might meet someone who could be your soulmate, but if you are not ready, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, you may overlook them or even push them away. Timing is not just about when they arrive in your life. It's about when you are prepared to see them for who they are. This is why some people meet the right person at the wrong time. Imagine two people whose souls are aligned, yet one is still caught in the chaos of unresolved wounds, insecurities, or distractions. They may not recognize the gift standing before them. They may mistake it for something ordinary, or they may even sabotage it because they don't yet know how to handle it. Life has a way of showing us that love is not only about encounter, it's about readiness. A soulmate does not come into your life to fix your brokenness. They come when you have at least begun the journey of facing yourself. Psychologically, timing matters because human beings grow in stages. We are constantly evolving, shedding old beliefs, developing new perspectives, learning through both success and failure. The person you are today may be very different from the person you were 5 years ago, and the soulmate you wish for may not resonate with your earlier self at all. If you met them too soon, you might not have recognized their value. If you meet them too late, you may regret the years lost to searching in the wrong places. That is why timing is so important. It is the alignment not only of two souls but of two journeys. Philosophically, this raises an important truth. Destiny is not only about what happens to us, but when it happens. There is a kind of wisdom built into the unfolding of life. Sometimes we long for a soulmate before we have built the patience, resilience, or self-knowledge required to sustain such a bond. Other times, life holds that connection until we are mature enough to appreciate it. What feels like delay may, in reality, be preparation. But here is the paradox. While timing is crucial, it is not entirely in our control. We cannot force the moment of meeting, nor can we predict it. What we can control is our readiness. We can work on ourselves, cultivating self-respect, clarity, and emotional maturity, so that when the right person does appear, we are capable of recognizing them. The soulmate every person wishes for may already be on their way, but the question is, will you be ready when they arrive? This is where patience becomes essential. In a world addicted to speed, we want instant results, instant connections, instant gratification. But soul-level connections don't work that way. They require trust in timing. They demand that we stop searching in desperation and instead focus on becoming the kind of person who can honor such a connection when it comes. Because the truth is, a soulmate doesn't save you. They meet you where you've already begun to save yourself. So, don't waste your energy worrying about when your soulmate will appear. Focus instead on what kind of person you are becoming while you wait. Because in the end, the timing is never random. It is always purposeful. Life introduces us to the right souls not when we want them, but when we are ready for them. The soulmate you long for will not arrive on your schedule. They will arrive when your soul is finally ready to meet them. One of the biggest misconceptions about soulmates is the belief that they are perfect. People imagine someone flawless, someone who never makes mistakes, never disappoints, never disagrees. But that is not a soulmate. That is a fantasy. Perfection is an illusion, and when we chase it, we set ourselves up for disappointment. The truth is, a soulmate is not perfect. They are human with flaws, with weaknesses, with their own struggles. What makes them a soulmate is not their lack of imperfection, but the way their imperfections align with ours in a way that fosters balance, growth, and connection. Think about it. If you were to meet someone who had no flaws, no contradictions, no human vulnerabilities, would you even be able to connect with them? Perfection creates distance. It intimidates rather than inspires. It makes us feel inadequate rather than understood. What we truly long for is not perfection but resonance, someone whose strengths complement our weaknesses and whose weaknesses allow us to offer our strengths. In that exchange, the bond becomes meaningful because it is real. Psychologically, this illusion of perfection often comes from how love is portrayed in media and culture. Movies, novels, and even social media present relationships as flawless, effortless, and idealized. This conditions people to expect the same in real life. But real relationships are not polished scripts. They are messy, unpredictable, and deeply human. A soulmate may hurt your feelings, they may frustrate you, they may disagree with you passionately. Yet, through those imperfections, you both learn patience, forgiveness, and humility. Those very struggles become the soil in which love grows deeper. Without friction, there is no growth. Without imperfection, there is no authenticity. Philosophically, this teaches us something profound about love itself. Love is not about finding a flawless person. It is about finding someone whose flaws you can live with, whose humanity you can accept, and whose presence makes you want to be a better version of yourself. In this sense, the imperfections of a soulmate are not obstacles. They are part of the design. They remind us that love is not about idealizing someone from a distance, but about choosing them up close, with all their complexity. Sometimes, the illusion of perfection also blinds us to real opportunities. Many people miss out on meaningful connections because they are too busy chasing an ideal that doesn't exist. They want the perfect partner, the perfect relationship, the perfect timing. But life does not deliver perfection. It delivers possibilities, and those possibilities only become beautiful when we embrace the imperfection that comes with them. A soulmate, then, is not the one who fits every expectation on your checklist. They are the one who breaks some of those expectations, but in doing so, teaches you something you didn't even know you needed to learn. They may not speak every word you wish to hear, but they will speak the truth you need to hear. They may not solve all your problems, but they will stand with you as you face them. That is the difference between fantasy and reality. So, When you think of the soulmate you wish for, stop asking whether they will be perfect. Instead, ask whether they will be real. Ask whether they will stand by you in both sunshine and storm. Ask whether their imperfections will challenge you to grow, and whether yours will inspire them to do the same. Because that is where the true beauty of the connection lies. Not in the absence of flaws, but in the courage to love despite them. The soulmate you seek is not the one without flaws, but the one whose imperfections make your journey together more human, more honest, and more profound. When we think about soulmates, it is easy to reduce the connection to emotions, love, comfort, belonging, and yes, those are essential, but a true soulmate relationship goes beyond emotion. It is about alignment of purpose and vision. It is about two people whose paths don't just cross but merge into something larger than either of them could achieve alone. This shared purpose is what gives the bond its strength and longevity. Without it, even the deepest feelings can fade. With it, even challenges become fuel for growth. Consider this: two people may love each other deeply, but if one's vision is to live a quiet, simple life while the other dreams of adventure and expansion, the bond will eventually strain. Love may hold them together for a while, but it is shared purpose that sustains them in the long run. A soulmate is someone whose values resonate with yours, whose goals complement your own, and whose vision for life doesn't conflict with, but amplifies your own. Psychologically, this is why so many people struggle in relationships. They confuse chemistry with compatibility. Chemistry is powerful, it draws people together, but chemistry alone cannot sustain a meaningful life partnership. Compatibility is about shared direction. It's about looking at the world through a similar lens, about aligning in values like honesty, growth, family, ambition, or contribution. When two people share this deeper foundation, their relationship becomes more than personal. It becomes purposeful. Philosophically, this shared purpose ties back to the idea that life is not meant to be lived in isolation. Human beings are wired to create, to contribute, to build. When two souls come together, the union becomes a force multiplier. They don't just walk parallel lives, they build something greater together. Think of the great partnerships in history. Not all of them were romantic, but all of them were fueled by a shared vision. From innovators to leaders to artists, their impact was magnified because they found a soulmate who shared not only their passion, but their mission. And this is where the depth of a soulmate truly reveals itself. They are not just there to make you feel good. They are there to help you fulfill your destiny. They are the person who pushes you toward your higher purpose while walking in alignment with their own. They remind you of why you are here, what you are capable of, and what truly matters. This is why the most powerful soulmate connections often have a ripple effect that goes far beyond the relationship itself. Together, you don't just change each other. You change the world around you. Of course, shared purpose doesn't mean identical dreams. A soulmate doesn't have to want the exact same career, hobbies, or lifestyle as you. What matters is that your visions complement rather than contradict. You may have different roles, but you are playing on the same team. You may have different talents, but you are building toward the same future. That is what creates harmony. Without it, relationships often dissolve under the weight of conflicting directions. With it, they thrive, even under external pressure. So, if you are searching for a soulmate, don't ask only whether they make you feel loved. Ask whether they make you feel aligned. Ask whether their presence helps you live closer to your values, closer to your vision, closer to the person you want to become. Because love without purpose is fragile, but love rooted in shared purpose is unbreakable. The soulmate you long for is not just the one who shares your heart, but the one who shares your horizon, and together you walk toward it. When we think of soulmates, it is tempting to limit the idea to something emotional or even practical. But the truth is, the deepest connections operate on a spiritual level. A A soulmate is not just someone who understands your thoughts or supports your ambitions. It is someone who awakens something within you that feels timeless, something that cannot be explained through logic alone. It is as if your soul recognizes theirs, as though you have known them far longer than your years on earth. This sense of familiarity and depth is not accidental. It comes from resonance at the level of spirit. If you look at it closely, every human being carries two journeys within them. The outer journey of achieving, working, building, and surviving, and the inner journey of meaning, fulfillment, and self-realization. Most relationships engage only with the outer journey. You meet someone, you share experiences, you build a life together. But a soulmate relationship speaks to the inner journey. It pushes you to confront your limitations, to grow beyond fear, to question your beliefs, and to live closer to your truth. In that sense, a soulmate is less about comfort and more about awakening. They don't just walk with you, they remind you of who you are meant to be. Psychologically, this is fascinating because human beings are constantly searching for wholeness. We all sense, at some level, that there is something incomplete within us. We project this onto the world, searching for someone who will complete us. But a true soulmate doesn't complete you. They reveal you. They don't fill the gaps. They help you see that you were never incomplete in the first place. Through their presence, you discover the strength, clarity, and authenticity that was already inside you but hidden. That is why these connections feel spiritual, because they strip away illusions and bring you face to face with your essence. Philosophically, we might think of a soulmate as a mirror, but it's not the kind of mirror that flatters or comforts. It is the kind of mirror that shows you both your beauty and your shadows. They reflect not only what you want to see, but also what you need to see. And if you are willing to face it, this reflection becomes the most powerful catalyst for growth. In many traditions, the soulmate is described as someone who holds up the mirror of truth, even when it is uncomfortable, because they are not here merely to please you. They are here to elevate you. And isn't that what true love should be? Not simply staying the same, but becoming more. Not simply finding safety, but finding transformation. A soulmate relationship is not about avoiding pain or challenges. It is about facing them together with the conviction that both of you are evolving into higher versions of yourselves. That is why such connections often feel destined. They are not just coincidences of meeting. They are intersections of purpose, growth, and spirit. When you look back at your life, you will realize that the most significant relationships were not the ones that gave you comfort alone, but the ones that changed you. They left you stronger, wiser, and more alive. A soulmate is that rare relationship that manages to do both. They comfort you, yes, but they also challenge you, stretch you, and call forth the best version of your spirit. That is why finding, or even recognizing, such a connection requires readiness. You cannot truly meet your soulmate until you are willing to meet yourself. So the next time you think of a soulmate, do not imagine just someone who makes your days brighter. Imagine someone who makes your soul deeper, someone who doesn't just accompany your life but elevates its meaning, someone who doesn't just walk into your world but awakens the world inside you. A soulmate is not the person who completes you, but the one who awakens you. And in awakening you, they remind you that your spirit was whole all along. When we talk about soulmates, it is easy to think the journey ends when you find them. But in truth, the real story begins after that. Because no matter how aligned, how connected, or how spiritually resonant two people may be, a soulmate relationship is not something you stumble upon and then simply enjoy. It is something you continuously build, protect, and nurture. Love, at its highest level, is not passive, it is active. It is not a one-time discovery, it is a lifelong practice. Many people romanticize the idea of a soulmate as though once you meet, everything will flow effortlessly. But even the deepest connection needs care. Think of it like a garden. The soil may be fertile, the seeds may be perfect, and the weather may be favorable. But without tending, without watering, without pulling out the weeds, the garden will not flourish. A soulmate relationship is the same. It requires attention, humility, and effort, not because the love is weak, but because it is strong. Anything valuable in life needs commitment. Psychologically, this is important to understand because human beings change. You are not the same person you were 5 years ago, and your soulmate is not the same person either. Growth brings new layers of identity, new dreams, new challenges. That means the relationship must evolve with both of you. A true soulmate connection adapts. It doesn't resist change but embraces it. It recognizes that love is not about holding someone in place. It is about walking with them as they grow and choosing them over and over again, no matter how life transforms them. Philosophically, this ties back to the idea of impermanence. Nothing in life is fixed. Everything is in motion. A soulmate bond thrives when both people accept this reality and choose to create stability through presence, not control. Instead of clinging to how things used to be, you build together for what can be. That is why patience, communication, and forgiveness are not just accessories in a soulmate relationship. They are its foundation. They ensure that the connection deepens over time instead of dissolving under the weight of unmet expectations, and there is something powerful in realizing this. A soulmate is not meant to take away life's struggles. They are meant to stand with you through them. The storms will come, the doubts will rise, and life will test the bond. But it is precisely in those moments that the value of a soulmate reveals itself. Because when the world feels heavy, they are the one reminding you why you must keep going. And when you falter, you are the one reminding them. The relationship becomes not just about love, but about resilience. Not just about happiness, but about strength. This is why a soulmate is less about destiny and more about discipline. Yes, there may be a spiritual force that draws you together. Yes, the alignment may feel miraculous. But sustaining it is a matter of conscious choice. Every day, you decide to listen rather than ignore, to support rather than criticize, to believe rather than doubt. And those choices, accumulated over time, create the bond that others will call unbreakable. So, the real beauty of a soulmate is not just in finding them. It is in what you both become together. It is in the kind of love you create, the kind of growth you nurture, and the kind of life you shape. Because in the end, a soulmate is not just someone you meet. They are someone you build a future with, step by step, choice by choice, day by day. A soulmate is not just the wish we all carry. It is the responsibility we must embrace. And the true measure of that bond is not how it begins, but how deeply we are willing to nurture it for the rest of our lives.